voice, oh my god, every time I turn the camera on. Oops. Okay. Kia ora e homa, my name is Sarita. I'm a New Zealander currently living in Canada, and today I thought, why not talk about my project ideas? So yeah, let's get into it. Little disclaimer to start, I have been struggling lately to kind of put content up just in terms of headspace. I thought this may be a fun way for me to feel inspired and like come and talk to you guys on camera. I'm just struggling at the moment, like mental health wise, so like having to film and edit and everything has just not been front of mind, which is kind of sad because writing and YouTube have become like my happy hobbies, so it's tough to not feel a desire to do either one or both, because there was a time where I was struggling to do both. So just a little disclaimer there. I'm trying to like bring the energy, but I apologize if I'm not. I'm hoping that the topic of this video will kind of come forth naturally anyway. So anyway, let's get into the ideas / projects that I have, which I would like to get to. So maybe we'll just start with my current one, because I have my little wall here. I don't have notes on it. I have my story idea notes here, and I don't have notes on my current project, obviously, because I'm working on it. But basically, let me try and improvise, which I do terribly when I improvise. Let me try and I'll just pull something up from my Instagram, because I cannot do like improv speech to save my life. But basically what I'm currently working on, which is what I'm documenting on my YouTube channel, I think it's going to be a YA fantasy. It's a multi-POV coming of age elemental fantasy set in a world inspired by Māori mythology. I am Māori. I was born in New Zealand. I lived there for, I guess, like half my life now, and New Zealand will always be a home to me. So yeah, it's my culture, and this is kind of like a way. Why am I getting emotional? Stop it. It's writing this story and other story ideas that I have is kind of like a way for me to reclaim my culture, because I'll probably get into it in other story ideas that I have, but historically, like Indigenous cultures through colonization have been different methods. They've been their cultures have been tried, but basically the vibes are a Māori mythology world. It's got elemental magic, an inherited magical ability. It's a coming of age elemental fantasy set in a world inspired by Māori mythology. It has like a nod to the gods and goddesses of Māori mythology, but in saying that, it literally is like my own imagination. So like there are basically the inception of the story world. Like I took the creation story of Rangi and Papa, and then there was like a scene in my head that I thought of, and from there like the entire story world like just came to be. And then I did take inspiration from other myths of the different gods and goddesses, and have kind of pieced together this story world that pulls from Māori mythology, but is also stuff that I've pieced together for my story world. Right, moving on. I would say it's a dark fantasy. I have no qualms about people dying in books, especially if it suits the purpose of the story and also the world. What else have I got going on? One of the key themes that I am exploring on it is love for your whānau, your family, and the lengths that one will go to for them, because that is something that I think that's something that is quite explored in the story at the moment, and it just explores like all these different perspectives on it. So yeah, that is what I'm currently working on, and that project is called, working title is Daughter of Ruin. So yeah, that's the vibes. If you want to know more about like this little wall here, I put it together in my last vlog, I think, which I'll link somewhere for you. I also have been looking at more pictures to put up for other characters because I realized I didn't have any of my male characters in my head. Like, I don't have a visual for them yet. Well, I've started to collate images of them, so I will add them at some point when I feel like doing a vlog again. Let's move on to my next projects, which I do have mentioned on my Instagram, because I did update my Instagram bio, because I'm doing a project, a separate secret project. This is all over the place, I'm so sorry. I'm doing a like separate secret project, not secret. I hate secret projects. I'm working on like marketing. I'm working on marketing. What am I trying to say? It's literally on my YouTube post. It's just a image called Your Story Strategy, and it's basically marketing for writers or authors. That's what I'm currently working on. I want to do it right, and I want to make it helpful and useful for people. So I was working on something with that and then realized, oh, I should probably update my own Instagram bio because I put my author Instagram together like slapdash, hapdash, slappy dash. Anyway, I put it together way back when and I hadn't like touched it since. So I've updated it. Long story not short. And I already have my next project listed on there that I want to work on once I've done this draft. It is a middle grade time travel fantasy. With this one, I have 2 middle grade story ideas and they are kind of similar. So part of me is contemplating whether to make this into a bit of a time travel series. Unsure, because I have not read enough middle grade to know what works, what doesn't. But basically, let's start with the fantasy one because that's the one that's been like mulling in my brain over and over and over again. Oh, you know what? This may not be a fantasy. So on that Discord, I was chatting with Ellie, and they said that it sounds more speculative. So maybe I'm gonna be writing a middle grade speculative fiction, which I didn't know. So the more you know. Anyway, okay, so this one is basically like a mixture of my own memories as a child and experiences mixed with stuff that's kind of like happening / has happened in my own imagination, right? I feel like that's what happens with coming up with story ideas. So this middle grade story idea that I have is basically one where this girl gets sent to stay with her family for the school holidays. She doesn't love it. Maybe she doesn't know them. Maybe she does. Maybe she just doesn't like going there because they live in the wop-wops, like out in the country, blah, blah, blah. She goes exploring. She comes across a mysterious cave. And I have in my head a cave that I explored with my grandparents when I was a child. And I know exactly what it looks like. And that is exactly what I'm going to write. Anyway, she goes with her. She goes exploring. She's alone. She comes across this mysterious cave that sends her back through like some sort of portal. Also, I should have prefaced this by saying she has no knowledge of her culture. She only speaks English. Her family is very like they're Māori, but they know that they're Māori, and like maybe they visit their family and like they're aware of like their culture and they don't necessarily like reject it, but they just don't know anything about their culture. They don't know their language, blah, 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 blah. This is where things are murky because I'm like, if I do that, then it's either I've probably got to up the stakes here because originally I had like, it's more like up the ante. So possibly they could be up the ante. Don't know. I need to read more middle grade, right? The whole gist of it is that she gets sent back in this portal. She comes out, doesn't know that she's been sent back in time. She goes back to her like grandparents or wherever she's staying. And she's like, things look a little bit different, but also not because she's in the country and like the houses barely change or like the streets barely change. Like they do, but they don't. And like, she's like a city kid. Like she like notices it, but also is like completely unaware. You know what I mean? Anyway, and then she comes across these people and she's like, hold the phone. What? And essentially the whole gist of it is that she learns, oh no. Basically, she discovers that there is a power in reclaiming her language and her culture. And she is able to learn that by being back there in time. And like, she even maybe like comes across her family, like great however many grandparents, like it's maybe a couple of generations, you know, that sort of thing. I don't know. That's basically that's the first middle grade. The second middle grade was probably not a sci-fi, and maybe it's just speculative again, but this is why once I tell you the idea, this is why I thought it could become like some sort of series. These kids are like either siblings, cousins, that sort of thing. They live in a bilingual Te Reo Māori and English New Zealand, and somehow they end up in the past where their ancestors are being forced to lose their language and only speak English, which this is truly what happened. It's not a lie. And like the only notes I have on this is that they don't love being in the past, because in the future that's where they had technology with like AI and robots and maids and VR and gaming, blah 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 blah. And they don't want to live like everyone else in like the 30s, 40s, 50s, like in the early 1900s, right? Because that's kind of the era that I'm taking it, because that's like my great-grandparents and grandparents era, where that's the stories that I was told when this happened. So yeah, that is the idea I have there. Still need to flesh it out more, and I feel like there's like maybe there's appeal for a series there. I don't know. I haven't really explored it more because I'm still so focused on doing Daughter of Ruin. This idea would probably expand more after I've moved on from this first draft of Daughter of Ruin. Anyway, my voice, oh my god. And then another one I have is basically, also if you haven't figured it out, I've basically come up with like this freaking multiverse of like Māori inspired stories. Back to my YA fantasy, Daughter of Ruin. In terms of era that would be set in, it's not set in like our world, obviously. Like I've made it up. I don't know what the terms are for that. Like I've constantly said on my channel and on lives that I've been on or hosted that like I am never great at remembering like terminology that people have, and like that's just who I am. Like I can't remember what it's like, a hard world, soft world, fantasy, I don't know, like you tell me. But also I'm not gonna remember, so do I care? Probably not. Sorry. Not sorry. So I mentioned that Daughter of Ruin is inspired by a Māori mythology world, and I talked about how I did all the like kind of world building, and it just kind of like I pieced it together. So basically I have another series which is adult fantasy, I believe. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it would be adult fantasy. It's not a prequel because it doesn't really have any relation to any specific story relation to Daughter of Ruin. Like it doesn't impact it directly. Like it's a completely separate story. But it is basically like the origins of the gods and goddesses. So it would read as like, this is the myths and legends. Like this is where the myths and legends stories come from of like the world that I'm like building. That is like my adult fantasy idea that I have, and I really like want to write it. And I actually am so pumped to get to that one. But I think that's going to be like, that's my third one to get to, if you get what I mean. So like I want to do Daughter of Ruin, and I want to get that ready to query, and then I want to start working on my middle grade. And then as I'm working on that, then I can start looking at the adult fantasy. Because yeah, I don't know, that just feels right to me. Don't ask me why. That's just the vibes I'm feeling, okay? These vibes may change. What else have I got? Oh, right. Okay, so the whole reason I mentioned a Discord question. So there was like a prompt in Lindsay Puckett's Discord. Tell her about a project that you're scared to write. And this one for me is the one that I'm most scared to write, because there are a couple reasons. It's because skill-wise, I know I'm not ready. Like I know I'm not ready to deliver on it. And the other reason is because there is so much research that I would need to do it justice. And not just like going to like a museum and like the library and the archives of New Zealand, like the New Zealand archives, like actually speaking to, like I don't even know who to speak to right now. Like that's what I mean. Like let me tell you what the idea is. So the project is a what if Māori people had an elemental connection to the land and the seas when colonizers came to our country. How would history have played out differently? And it basically is essentially like, if you think about what I've got going on with Daughter of Ruin, and you almost take that kind of like magic system and plonk it into 1800s, 1700s, whenever the colonizers, settlers came to New Zealand and just plonked that magical ability into like the Māori world, how might that have changed history? So that's kind of like what the idea I had. That idea came out when obviously like I'm working on an elemental magic story, but then I saw Stan Walker's music video called Mo Ake Tonu come out, and I watched it, and aside from like feeling all the emotions, it also kind of made me think of, it just kind of triggered that thought of like what would have happened differently. So yeah, that's where that idea came from. And that's kind of what I want to write. I don't know that it would be set specifically there. I feel like I would rather have it set where my family is from and where like, you know, like where I whakapapa back to, because that's where I have all the stories. Like that's where I know, yeah, I don't know. That's just everything that I know about, and that's who I can go and talk to. That's the one that I'm like most scared to do, because I feel like there's like a pressure in doing that one justice. Even now, like I feel like, oh, so like nervous. So I don't know when I would get to that. I feel like there is so much to do in that story that yeah, it would be a whole beast on its own. So yeah. And then the only other ideas I have, I only have 2 more. One of them, the most latest one, because I have nothing other than the fact that it's based I have 2 things to share with you here. It's a climate fiction and it's set in Antarctica, and that's it. Like that's literally all the notes I have to share with you there. The other one is based on a quote, and I just wrote the quote down, and the quote is written in the chants of the Pacific, when the islands are united, the world will stop and listen. I've been watching Chief of War with my husband. It's just really cool to see, because my husband is Rarotongan and Tahitian, and I am Māori, and like we're both from the Pacific basically. And watching Chief of War, it's so cool to see not only like something from like Pacific culture on like such a grand scale, but like now that I'm seeing like more stuff on social media and how true they were to Pacific culture. I don't know, it's just all the emotions. It's just like, yeah, it's inspiring. Oh my god. Why am I like this? Anyway, so on one of the interviews that I saw on Instagram, I think Cliff Curtis said something about there's like land continents, but for the Pacific people, the ocean is our continent. And in the comments, someone had said this, written in the chants of the Pacific, when the islands are united, the world will stop and listen. And I was like, that is just beautiful. And I was like, that is inspiring in terms of an idea. And so I wrote that down. Ow, my elbow. I don't know where I'm going to go with that. I just wanted to note it down because I think it is something to keep for in the future, maybe. But yeah, that's all my story ideas. And I've been talking for forever. What am I trying to say? Okay, here we go. I know what I want to know. Instead of just leaving any old emoji down below, leave 5 emojis of the project idea that you really, really, really want to write, but maybe aren't writing right now. And then like, please tell me what it is, or like give me the vibes, because I am shit terrible at guessing what they are. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you hopefully soon. Bye.